Artificial intelligence promises to make work faster, easier, and more efficient. But what happens when employees begin relying on AI so heavily that they stop exercising their own judgment, critical thinking, and expertise? In today's conversation, we'll explore the risks of AI dependence, how leaders can encourage responsible use, and what organizations can do to ensure AI remains a tool, not a replacement for human thinking. To do that, I'm pleased to welcome a first time guest, Matt Rosen. Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Now, your company is Aleda. Tell us about yourself and what that's all about.
Sure. So, I'm the founder and CEO of Aleda. It's a 10-year-old consulting firm. We have our roots in custom software development, but then in 2019 started doing a lot of work with data, which led into some early machine learning, which is a type of artificial intelligence. And then really starting in 2022, after the ChatGPT moment, we kind of went all in on AI as a firm. And so we're about 400 people between the United States, Argentina, and India, all full-time employees of the firm that are really working on behalf of our clients to help them really come alongside them to help them achieve their most strategic goals. And so one of the big ones over the last few years is trying to figure out how to incorporate artificial intelligence into what they do, what they build, how they work as a company. And it's been a fast and ever-changing field. And so, every 3 months we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And we went through an AI transformation of our own company, trying to figure out all the places we could use AI, but also how to inform our employees how and when to use it and when not to use it as well. And so it's an ongoing thing. We've got a team dedicated to working on that on behalf of ourselves and our clients. And so excited to talk more about what we've seen over the last, let's call it 3.5 years since AI really went mainstream after that ChatGPT moment.
It's an amazing thing to watch unfold the way AI is just taking over everything. It's every day, front page of the newspaper, the data centers, all the things that make it all work. But Matt, let me ask you this. For business owners and managers, high level people who make decisions in companies, is this a topic that should disturb them? Should they be worried?
I think worry is the wrong word. I got my start in this business when the internet and e-commerce were all the rage, and there was an E behind everything, and everyone had a VP of e-commerce. And all of a sudden, it's just commerce now. The E went away after the dot-com crash, and this one's going to be a little bit more impactful, but it's not all that dissimilar to the every other technological wave, whether it was desktop computers to the internet to mobile phones, and now it's AI. And so, I think it's a great opportunity for organizations to really take advantage of what the technology can bring. But bad press sells newspapers and gets eyeballs, and so you hear a lot of doom and gloom from, especially from the Silicon Valley guys, ChatGPT and Anthropic. That a couple years before they decided to go public, they were telling everyone that 50% of knowledge work was going away and there weren't going to be any jobs, and the exact opposite has happened. We're hiring. Most organizations out there are, while they're being impacted, new roles are being created. And so I think it's incumbent upon those that are listening to this to really dig in. And there's not an exact playbook. I've found the best way to get familiar with it is to start using the tools yourself. Using them in your daily work, figuring out where they can be impactful and help you. And really, it needs to be top down driven. I found that was how we were successful with AI. As I said, we're going to be an AI company. We're going to invest in our own tooling. We're going to invest in our own education. We're going to train everybody. We're going to retrain them as things change. And it's going to be part of our DNA and what we do. And the companies that are really growing and succeeding right now are the ones that are oftentimes traditional businesses that are leveraging AI to really take out inefficiencies and look for new revenue generating opportunities. And I view this as a really, positive time to be a technologist and also just to take advantage of this, no matter what business you're in. But this is one of those that's here to stay. This is not like blockchain, which everyone heard about, and it really didn't have much of an impact on anyone. This is a technology that's here to stay. And so the winners are going to be the ones that figure out how to incorporate this into their organizations and what they do every day.
Could be said that there's sometimes too much of something. So, what are some of the earliest warning signs that employees may be outsourcing too much of their thinking to AI? You know, we want our employees to think, but if they're treating AI as a common Google to learn everything, to ask every question, is that too much? Do you have any examples or thoughts?
Well, I think AI needs to be used as a thinking partner. Think of it as like a junior associate, someone that you can brainstorm ideas with. I mean, I think it's great for, you're writing an important email, put it in and say, hey, how might I write this better? But then take that and make that your own when it comes to like crunching reports or numbers. I mean, one example we've got is, we create a board deck once a quarter. And it used to be like a week long process. And so what we were able to do with some of our internal tooling is take 10 different Excel spreadsheets that would feed it, and we were able to generate a PDF. And at first it didn't turn out very well, but over time we've really refined it. But we still then take that work and make sure that it's correct, refined, and then present it. And so I think a good way to know if employees are using AI and not thinking is asking them to actually defend and present the work that they've submitted, whether it be a spreadsheet, a Word document, a PowerPoint, an email. If they can't orally cover what was in there, there's a good chance that they're not thinking about it. So, but employees have to be trained on like where to use it, where not to use it. And I think being asked to explain their work is a good way to figure out who's actually thinking and who's not, because you shouldn't be outsourcing your thinking, but it can help brainstorm new ideas. It can help create, new ideas. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but it shouldn't be a complete replacement for thinking and human judgment.
I see that working in schools from what I can tell is happening. The written word's one thing, but can you get up and talk about what you just wrote or quote unquote wrote? Because maybe you have no idea what you submitted. Good points, Matt. Thank you for that. And I know some organizations have in the past pushed back against using AI. They're like, no, we're not going to use it. And now they're taking it on. Some are encouraging it. They're saying that we need to make this part of our company. Is there a balance there to think about beyond what you've already shared?
Well, to just shut it off is a very myopic point of view. And the thing is, the main three engines that most people are using today, it's, ChatGPT from OpenAI, it's Anthropic's Claude, which has really gained a lot of traction over the last year, and then it's Google's Gemini, which has fallen off a little bit. But any of your employees can access this via their phone for free or for a cheap plan. So they're probably using it anyway. And so it's much better as an organization to, I think, give some direction as to what's expected. I was seeing a lot of our clients are investing in tooling. We've got a platform that we built for ourselves that we deploy for our clients, where it sits in their environment and it is connected to their data and their documents. Because ultimately, as an organization, your data is your differentiator. So if you can hook up the models to things that are yours in a safe, secure way, that's ideal, because you don't have employees going and asking questions and it's scouring Reddit and the internet. It's grounded on like information that's pertinent to you and the business problems you're solving. And so we've seen that work really well. Microsoft's got a tool called Copilot. A lot of our clients are using that at least as a starting point. And so having some direction on what tools to use is helpful, but then there needs to be training as well. You can't just say, hey, here's Claude or here's an enterprise ChatGPT license. Good luck. That doesn't really work out very well. And you'll have some individuals that'll like grasp it and do the work of 10 people, and then everybody else either won't use it or won't use it well. And so buying a tool is not a strategy. There's a study recently that like 93% of AI dollars were going to tools and like 7% to training. And that's just way too lopsided. I don't know if it's 80/20, 70/30, but if you're not investing in training your people on how to use it, and you have to come up with your own training. And the great thing is AI can help you come up with the training. It's like, hey, here's what we do as an organization. Here's the biggest inefficiencies. Help me understand where we can be using you as a tool to help. And like AI can help be the guide that helps you build the training. In fact, that's what we've done a lot for ourselves. But it takes time. It takes, curiosity. It takes some investment. There's also a ton of consulting firms out there that can help with this. But there's a lot organizations can do on their own just by using AI to help them figure out where to use AI. It's kind of fascinating. There's not a lot of other technologies out there like that.
Matt, when I get an email or something sent to me and I can sniff out AI, like that, I know this person, I know they didn't write that email. I kind of lose, I don't know, trust or uh, my opinion of that goes down because I know it's not theirs. But a lot of people are using AI to do things like write emails and generate content. How do we figure that out? How do we make that work? Because I know when I'm scrolling through social media and I see an AI generated video, not interested. I know it's fake, but I use AI all the time for the work I do as well.
I think it comes
Thoughts?
down to making it your own. I mean,
Yeah.
AI is super verbose is one thing. I mean, the amount of content it will generate, and it'll look really good, but it can be like total crap and it can be wrong. And oftentimes people don't like ask it to cite its sources. And that's the problem when you're using one of these publicly available AIs. I mean, it's scouring the internet, it's scouring Wikipedia, Reddit. I mean, it will pull back, it'll come up with its own answers because ultimately it wants to please the user so you come back and use it some more because ultimately these companies and all of these models are being driven by usage or tokens, which is how much information are you feeding the AI to get answers. So I'm with you. I think writing emails is a very personal thing. I think if it's a very important one, having it like check your work and be like, did I miss anything? That's great. But to just say, hey, I need an email because I'm going to call on Jeff for this, and then just cutting and pasting it from the AI, I think you're just again, it's easy to spot, in my opinion, something that was AI generated. Also, like LinkedIn, you accept a connection request, and they've got the AI and LinkedIn turned on, and they just start spamming you. And I immediately disconnect from people that do that. So I think there needs to be some amount of human judgment as to where and when to use it. And unfortunately, that can't always be taught. Sometimes it needs to be, you know, somewhat innate, but as organizational leaders, setting some boundaries as, hey, use AI for this, don't use AI for that. And furthermore, if you're investing in internal tools, a discussion we're starting to have a lot is just the economics of AI. Like it's oftentimes that people will use the most expensive model to write an email or to review a document when you could be using the cheapest. But because these things have been so cheap, people just want to use the latest and greatest. And companies are starting to get some. You're hearing now about companies getting some pretty big bills. In fact, we've had to set some usage limits and give direction to people of, hey, when you're doing this, use this model. When you're doing this, use that model, so that they aren't running up the bill with the model providers. So does that kind of answer what you were asking?
It does. It does. And I think we covered the topic good, but I do want to get into your thoughts on the future.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I think 2.5 years is about the time period we've really seen AI
Well,
become a thing.
November 2022 was that Chat GPT moment when three
Right.
launched publicly to the internet. We started heavily investing in early 23. So yeah,
So,
now yeah, approaching 3.5, 4 years almost. But
so
most
it's young. It's young.
it's very young. Yeah.
So from your experience and what you're seeing, what's the next few years going to bring? What are we going to see? What do we need to do about what's coming? Any crystal ball moments for you?
Well, the models are going to continue to innovate. Some are going to get more expensive when you see ChatGPT and Anthropic go public. They're going to increase the cost of tokens, although they're going to still have cheaper models. So I think there's this whole thing around token economics. It's a conversation that's happening for heavy users today, but will ultimately impact other users. But usually, the more people want of something, you typically drive costs down. So to me, that's not a huge concern over the long term, maybe in the short term. And so thinking about how it's being used, I think is important. I think these models are going to continue to get more and more powerful. Really having what we have today is I'll give credit to a guy named Nathaniel Whittemore. He's got a podcast called the AI Daily Brief, and anyone who's trying to come up to speed in AI should absolutely subscribe to his podcast. I've talked to him a few times. Very bright guy and presents things in a very neutral way about what's happening. And some episodes are more technical than others, but he talks about this concept called the capabilities overhang, where there's way more capability in AI than people are using today, and these models are getting better literally by the week. And so it's hard to say exactly where things are going to go because things are happening so quickly. But what I encourage my clients to do and what we've done for ourselves is invested in some of our own AI tooling. So we keep our data, our documents, our system stuff inside our walls. We don't just send it out to a public version of Claude or ChatGPT because what we don't want to do is necessarily train these model providers on what our special sauce is. We want it somewhat internal. So we have a way of calling the models kind of behind the scenes. And I've seen a number of companies build this for themselves. There's also enterprise tools out there. But keeping your data and your documents kind of contained in your environment and using the models where you need to help solve problems grounded in your data, I think is going to be something that companies are looking to do more and more. I think as they do that, they're going to look to figure out, all right, how do we reimagine how work is done? Like, do we continue to have to create board decks. What systems could we live without? What systems could we rebuild for ourselves where it might be more cost effective to have AI doing some of these things for us? I think you're going to see more and more AI agents doing more and more things that I would say are like lower end, like resetting passwords or simple customer service requests. I think you're going to see AI really enable any of the clients that are out there that have a sales organization, helping them come up to speed quickly on products and services. And as new things come out, that's where I've seen one of the biggest uplifts in our own organization is just our salespeople are just capable of way more because they just have access to so much more knowledge. Their ability to synthesize information from a client and create a proposal has been drastically reduced that time frame, and we're creating much, much better output. I think, it's at some point in time, AI is going to power robots. I don't know exactly what that means yet, what type of work they're going to be good at, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a whole generation of robots powered by AI that are going to take on some of the more, I'd say, more dangerous human tasks. So if you're working with, specialty chemicals that might be harmful to humans, or sending robots into, deep sea drilling operations, things like that, I think that's going to be a real thing in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think a lot of it's still somewhat unclear, and different fields are going to be impacted in different ways. And for the folks that are out there that do the same thing over and over again, routine work, documentation, I think those roles are going to be taken more and more by AI. And so people are going to have to learn to think and use these tools to be more effective. And I've said every interview I've ever done, it's like AI is not coming for your job. It doesn't want your job. I mean, it just does what you tell it. But someone who's using it and using it powerfully, they're coming for your job. They might be coming for your company. They might be disrupting business models. And the best way to get ahead of it is just dive in and start leveraging the technology so you know what it's capable of.
That was my last question, but as Columbo would say, one more thing. So this may not be your world, Matt, but tell me this if you can. We see in the news all the time the fight against data centers. In Ohio here, they're trying to get rid of them. They don't want them, and there could be laws that restrict them. They need those for AI to continue to grow, correct? What's
Yes.
going to happen if we can't get the data centers to power the AI that everyone wants?
There'll be a way. I mean, there'll be states that will build them. I mean, I'm in Texas. We're already throwing them behind the grid. We've got plans for nuclear plants to, power data centers. We've got natural gas powering data centers. The states that figure out ways to do data centers behind the energy grids are going to win. And they're going to, and the other thing that'll happen is if we don't continue to innovate, China's firing up nuclear reactors and building data centers left and right. And but they've nationalized it, so they've their downsides as a country as well. But they've done a really good job on investing heavily and spinning it in a positive way, where I think about it more in doom and gloom and not in my backyard. And I think it's unfortunate that we're doing that. So there's going to be states that are going to take advantage of it. If it's not states that take advantage of it, the Middle East is already buying tons of servers, and they're going to be the winners because they're going to have hubs of data center there powered by oil. So I think it's one of these things that I think it's short-sighted. I don't like the data center bans, and I think the states that put those in place are selling themselves short. And I think the opportunities that these data centers create are immense. And I think one of the things that needs to happen is these data center providers need to do a better job of partnering with the communities. I mean, like Elon's done a great job in Memphis. And I think communities, instead of saying, we don't want it, it's like, okay, we'll put it here, but what are you going to do for us? Can you subsidize teachers? Can you subsidize this or that? Because instead of making it, I don't want it, it's like, if we put it here, what can you give me? Can you lower energy costs? And so I think there needs to be a little bit more open-mindedness and thinking about, if we are going to allow it, let's at least get something for it. And I think these data center operators need to do a better job of that as well. But just putting up your hand, Texas, Florida, states that don't regulate it are going to be the winners.
Well, Matt, interesting topic for sure. There'll be more coming tomorrow on this as things continue to change. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your time, and let's do another one later on.